Is salvation a one-time event? How do justification and sanctification play into it?
All right.
So maybe define terms first.
So justification is a word, it actually comes from the Greek New Testament, and it means to be made righteous. And so justification means that even though you're a sinner, Jesus declares you righteous because of what he's done.
You know how I remember that? Just a silly little thing, because I'm not like a brainiac like you. So when I think about justification, I think about like left justification on a page and how you get everything lined up. And so if you're justified, you're all lined up with God. Get it? Like, okay, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Go on, Zach, please save me quickly.
Sanctification is a word that means holiness. And the idea here is that once we are made right with God, we're made righteous in God's sight, we're called to walk according to his ways and according to his word. Now, back to the first question, is salvation a one-time event? You'll love this answer. Yes and no. Everybody got it? So here's the cool thing about salvation in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul, if you read his letters, he speaks about salvation in 3 tenses. He speaks about it in the past tense. We have been saved. He speaks about it in the present tense. We are being saved. He speaks about it in the future tense. We will be saved. In the past, Jesus died once for all sins, for all sinners. It is finished. It is accomplished. It is done. Salvation is a past event. And yet, that past event hops into our present by the Spirit's power and by faith. That's how we receive it, and that's how we are being saved. But not only that, it's a future promise. Because salvation ultimately culminates in eternity when we are with Jesus forever, so we will be saved. And so here's the idea. Salvation is not just for one time. Salvation is for all time, and God has a desire that it's for all people.
So when it comes to the words justification and sanctification, how do justification and sanctification play into our salvation? Justification is what Jesus did on the cross for us. And when we believe, we are made right. We are justified with God. Sanctification is that incredible process that happens as the Holy Spirit's working in our lives to make us more and more like Jesus. And you know that sanctification is a constant battle. Paul describes it. The good that I want to do, I don't. The bad that I don't want to do, I do it. I'm struggling. I've got this tug of war going on inside. We're at this very same time, people who possess Jesus, who lives in us, and people who struggle with that old sinful nature. And so justification is something Jesus accomplished completely for us. Sanctification is what the Holy Spirit is constantly working on in our lives, constantly trying to draw us closer in faith and to become more and more like Christ.
Oh, by the way, one other thing on justification. I did have a Greek professor who said to me once upon a time, to be justified means that you are just as if I'd never sinned.